Alright guys, I have some practice problems that we're going to work on right now. We're going to work with imaginary I and we're going to express in terms of I. So we are going to start with this problem. It is going to be the square root of negative 12 minus the square root of negative 3, or we could read it square root of negative 12, negative square root of negative 3. Now, if you want to work this out on your own, pause now. Spoiler alert, I'm getting ready to put the final answer on the board. I'll do that in blue. Final answer is going to be, this is going to equal square root 3i. Okay. So if you want to work it out from this point, you would want to pause now. Okay. And now we will work it out together. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and erase this bit in blue. All right. So we have square root negative 12 minus square root negative 3. So we can rewrite this as square root 12 in parentheses negative 1 minus square root 3 in parentheses, oops, almost put in parentheses there, negative 1 in parentheses, so times negative 1. Okay, if you remember back to the other video referring to m, square root m, negative 1, it was negative 1, like this, okay. And you know what, I'll make a video and I'll label it m parentheses negative 1 close parentheses, and you'll know what we're talking about here. So go ahead and look for that on my channel here. Alright, so this can be further simplified as square root 12 times square root negative 1 minus square root 3 times square root negative 1. Our next step is going to be down here. Okay, so that will be equal to square root 12. And what is the square root of negative 1? Remember, we're expressing in terms of I. Okay? I, right? Minus square root of 3i. Okay, tracking so far? Alright, so this next step should seem familiar, so we're going to say square root of 12 right here, right? And I will draw an arrow in green here. So this square root 12, or should I say square root 12i, we're going to factor out that 12. And remember, this is a radical symbol without an index root written, so we know that that is a 2, right? So we know it's a square root. So we want to factor out that 12 and see if we can get the 12 is the radicand, right? The 12i. So we want to factor out that 12 in such a way that one of the factors, or at least one of the factors, can be easily squared. So if we can come up with a perfect square for 12. So let's think of the factors of 12. We got 6 and 2. 6 times 2 is 12. 3 times 4. 12 times 1. And if we stop and look here, we can see we've already got it, don't we? Here's a perfect square. So we can factor that to the perfect square, and we have 3 times 4. Don't forget the I here, right? Carry that over. I. Okay. So now, subtract that from square root 3i. It's not going to be able to factor that out. That's prime. So it's only factorable to 1 and 3. And now we can remember that this index root is 2. Right? We're going to apply that to the 4. And square root of 4 is 2. We're basically extrapolating that 2 out of the problem, right? Just go ahead and write down what we have here on the board, and I will clear the screen and we'll move towards the top of the screen so we can follow along a little better. Alright, again, so what we had was square root 3 times 4i minus the square root of 3i. And again, here's our index root, right? Our principal root. And we see that we can square root 4, right? And the value of that is 2. So that 2 still exists. We just applied this radical to that 4. Okay, so we didn't get rid of it. We just applied that operation to it. So that gives us a 2 outside of the radical. So now we have the square root of 3i. That's what's left in the radical right there. okay, minus, can't do anything here, again 3 is prime, so we have square root 3i, okay? So this is where we're at right now, and we could stop right here, I suppose, but looks like we can do some more simplification. So we're going to write this down here, 2 times 3i negative square root 3i. Okay. So now, let's look at this 2, 3i. 2 times 3i says 3i 2 times. So that's the same as, this is equal to square root 3i plus square root 3i. Right? We can't forget this part right here, so we have minus square root 3i. So we had square root 3i, we added another square root 3i, then we took one back away. So we end up with square root 3i. So you see how we got to that answer, right? All right, cheers.